All right. So welcome to the off the record founders confessional at Cannes. And really the goal is to hear from actual founders of companies and what they really deal with, because we don't always talk about that. We just talk about the exits, we talk about the fundraising, but there's a lot of other stuff that happens. So first, I'm Corey Ferengul, general partner at Aperiam Ventures. We're one of the only investors in the AdTech space, purely in the AdTech space. And as I'll tell you, one of the only that do invest. There's not a lot of firms that focus on ad tech. We'll let the panelists go around, then we'll dive in really quick. Just quick who you are, who you're with, and very quickly about your story.
All right. Hey, I'm Abrianna Alvarez Lopez. I am co-founder and CMO at Agnitio. We are an agentic AI control plane in the advertising and media space. And we've been at this for about 18 months now. So,
hi, I'm Priti Ohri. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Advertible. We're a creative infrastructure company within the ad tech ecosystem. And we've been doing this now for 3 years and fully bootstrapped.
Hi, I'm Freitas, co-founder and CEO of CWire. We're an agentic advertising platform with signal audience agents and creative agents. And we've been doing that for a bit more than 5 years, and we've fundraised a couple of millions.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alban, co-founder and CEO of goTom. We are a CRM and order management platform for publishers and sales houses, and we're doing this since 10 years. Bootstrapped, fully bootstrapped, and happy to be here in the cozy confession booth. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Fabrice. I'm co-founder and CEO of VideoRunRun. VideoRunRun is a creative intelligence layer, and it's a spin-off of an agency. I will explain later what is the importance of this fact, and happy to be here.
Hello, everyone. I am Magali Quentel-Rème. I am the CEO and co-founder of Opti Digital. We are an ad tech focused on optimizing media publishers' ad revenue. It's a company that we co-founded 8 years ago, and it's fully bootstrapped.
All right. So two terms that I don't know were used nearly as much last year at Cannes: agent and agentic, right? But I feel like every meeting I go into now, it's agent and agentic. And so now we're all going to have to figure out how to differentiate our agentic agents from everybody else's agentic agents, right? So from a founder standpoint, let's start. And Priti, let's start with you. What was the decision that made you say, I'm going to start this company? What was the thing that said, oh, yeah, I'm doing this?
Yeah, I think the first thing was we saw that there was a real need for just the simplicity of having a plug-in solution for large platforms.
Yep.
But really, we got laid off, and when you have nowhere else to go,
look, that's real, right? That's real.
I think you need that impetus to start going.
Yeah.
You can talk about starting a business for as long as you want, but until you run out of money or don't have any other option, you have no desire to go do it.
Yep.
Comfort does not breed that kind of ambition.
It's very real. So for me, that's 10 years ago for you. What caused you to say, I'm going to do this?
In fact, I was looking for an idea. It was 15 years ago. And I decided to go to the US to see what was done on the video side, especially at the VidCon. That was the main fair for YouTube at this time. I went there and I tried to find out some agencies working very well on the YouTube optimization. And I find some ideas during this fair. And I said, okay, US is always advanced. So let's pick a good idea that is working there, bring it into Europe, especially in France, and make
You were on a mission to start a company, it sounds like. You were looking for the idea.
I was looking for an idea, yeah. So I decided to go, and YouTube was doing a lot of virality, how to do viral campaigns for startups. And I said, okay, let's bring this kind of viral agencies in France to also help startups to start with a new player that was YouTube. At the moment, Meta didn't exist, so it was a new channel.
It's funny to think of YouTube as a new player at some point in time, right?
I mean, it's 20 years. It's very 20 years. A lot happened.
So, but question is, why were you looking for an idea? What made you say I need to start?
In fact, I had some companies before.
Yep.
I had a school of English that I picked from also from the Europe. It was in Italy. So I brought the idea in France. I invested in that. And then I was the master franchisee for Dale Carnegie Training, which is famous in the US. I was a French first master franchisee. And I do always that. I say, okay, what is in advance in a country that I can pick the idea and transfer? Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. It takes more time because you need to educate the market, which is sometimes really costly.
Yep. Doing missionary work sometimes is the thing you don't realize when you're starting a company, right? You think you're selling your product, but you're actually educating the market first.
Exactly.
Right. You have to spend your time. Rui, how about yourself? You've gone down a little bit of a venture path, more traditional.
Essentially, I've always been like switching between startups and corporates. Straight out of college, I was like, what shall I do now? And I was like actually graduated for finance, very boring Swiss stuff, and then I met a few guys that were building holiday rental business when Airbnb was very small, and I kind of liked that thing of just building something, and we competed with them. I mean, they raised 10 times more than we did every single round,
right?
Within the 2-3 months, after or before we raised.
And did that impact your decision? How much a competitor raised?
I mean, it did. Yeah, obviously. I mean, on top of that, they had really good talents, and it was actually really hard to find such talents in Europe. So we were like moving to London and doing all of that. And after every startup experience, I was kind of exhausted of the whole runway fundraising, and everything. So I went into a corporate where we had a good salary, was comfortable. Until it gets political, slow, annoying, and then I would just like, okay, let's go back into a startup.
Enough of this.
Exactly. Let's just do stuff. And I've done that a couple of times. Joined as well a group that used to buy AdTech companies, try to implement that across some of the assets that they had. That's where I started with AdTech. Back then, Improved Digital was one of the acquisitions of the group, and Publicitas was kind of a sales network global that we tried to build up then, into what the future of programmatic could look like. Publishers had no idea back then what to do with programmatic. So it wasn't easy, probably too early and not the right approach. And then I actually joined a publisher, and that's where I was on the media side for quite a long time, until again the P&L was coming a lot from programmatic, and then a lot of people had opinions and were interested. Then I kind of moved on again because it was slow, and I tried to leave the business, go into fintech, and it was interesting because it was very AI driven before ChatGPT and before it got
we called
into
it machine
consumers.
learning then.
Exactly. And interestingly, Google announced no more cookies, and the whole industry went like, okay, let's go email-based IDs, which sounded quite counterintuitive, because if you want more privacy, you don't necessarily go for emails. And then with all the things that I was working on the fintech side, in the AI part, I was like, I'm sure we can do better. And that's kind of how it started. We did a little pilot that worked really well for one big Swiss bank, and they said, oh, we love it. So then we just started the company.
Well, we've got 3 very different approaches, right? I had an idea, but I needed to push out the door. I was going to find an idea. I did a startup. I wanted comfort. Oh, wait, this sucks. I'm going back to the startup, right? And it just kind of shows it comes from so many different ways, right? You get to the story, or get everybody's story, and you get there many ways. Now, let's go, Alban. What's the moment when it almost didn't work and you're like, I'm done. This just isn't going to happen. But you stayed because you're still here. But like, where was that moment?
Yeah, actually, I think we didn't have such a moment during the 10 years, but we had this moment in
highly unusual. I'm betting you after a couple drinks, we could get the story out of you.
I think that moment we had it really in the beginning, because we worked for a Swiss media group before we started goTom, and my co-founder called me if we want to like buy the software code from the company and start as an independent company.
Right.
And I was like, okay, this is crazy. Why should they sell us the code and let us start an independent company? And at one point it worked out, and we started as goTom. And it was also in the benefit of our former employer, because it just didn't make sense for them from a commercial perspective to build such a tool and infrastructure, because you could invest your time and money into things that are more important for your business in terms of creating USPs for advertisers and stuff like that. So we are a commercial system in the background, and you shouldn't spend too much resources there.
Yes. But there's always those things that you spend resources on that you didn't expect. And you're like, shit, I'm here. I was actually talking to a founder the other day who said, I didn't know I was going to do so much finance. I was like, oh, you're going to do a lot of finance. So, Abrianna, you've only been at it about 18 months. Have you had that moment yet that you all looked at each other? Because you have a couple of co-founders where you're like, oh, this is just not going to work.
Well, I think I'm a very optimistic person.
Okay.
So
One of you has to be. So
somebody has to be a realist as well. But I'm like, it's going to work out. And I think that you get to those moments or those days where you're like, okay, I've got to pay these people. My accounts receivables delayed. People haven't paid on time, right? And you're like, all right, things are getting tight. It's feeling a little suffocating. How are we going to make it through?
Yep.
Because we're practically bootstrapped. So, we depend on everything hitting at the right time. So there's moments, but I think it lasts for like a day. And then it's, the next day something comes through, something always moves.
Right.
So there are times where you feel that discomfort, but like we're all founders. We're all used to being uncomfortable. Like if you don't like to be uncomfortable, do not start a company.
Right. And you have to find those wins.
Yes.
What are the right? Because you said it. I mean, you probably didn't close a huge deal every one of those times, but you had one little thing work, right?
Yep.
What are the wins?
Yep.
What are the things you're looking for?
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes that win is not necessarily coming in terms of revenue. It could be industry recognition. It could be, hey, somebody was like, I've heard of you guys. And you're like, you have? That's
right.
Awesome.
Right. I had a moment, one of our portfolio companies, I was in a van coming back from an event here, and I said, oh, I'm going to this company's event. And they said, oh, and they told me what the company did. I was like, I'm going right up to the CEO and telling him, like, that's, and he was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, it was 3 agency people. They knew who you were, right? Like, those are the wins, right? You look for the wins that you can get them.
Absolutely.
So now, Magali, you also are bootstrapped. Right. And when bootstrap, that means you have even less of a net beneath you. If things fall, there's nothing to catch. Have you had the moment of we're out, it's not going to work? That you want to talk about?
Of course, I think I think when you start the company, you don't know how long it's going to last. You don't know if it's going to work.
Right.
You don't know when the first wins are coming also, which is sometimes a bit breathtaking in the sense that it's a lot of unknown. So I agree a lot with what you said, that we have learned little by little, like celebrating every win.
Yeah.
Could be company recognition. It could be a little sale, because the big one is going to have a very long sales cycle. And yes, I always have a lot of doubts, and I'm really not the most optimistic in our organization.
That's
I'm
it.
really more like cautious. And do you
look
really
after the
think we should do
finances more?
that? Yes.
There we go.
So I think what is super important, it's the second company I do. The first one I was alone, and I didn't want to do entrepreneurship alone again because it was too difficult. So what really helped was finding the right person and thinking, okay, we know each other. We know that we are complementary. We work well together. And we want to work together. And this helps a lot when one is down because we didn't win that deal, or because we had this problem with this employee or whatever. The other one is up and say, come on, let's do it. It's going to be better tomorrow. And the next day is the other way around. So it really helps.
So how many of you have co-founders? So there we go. That's the norm now, right? But we talk about all these stories. Steve Jobs, he had a co-founder. Bill Gates, he had a co-founder, right? Co-founder is actually more common than we think, but the story later ends up revolving around one person, right? But the reality is you need that person. How many of you have the same co-founder today that you did when you started? But that's it. That's the other part, right? When it comes time, when you say partially, did you have to remove a co-founder?
Yeah, we actually added and removed co-founders as we went, right? I mean, we started off 3, and then went up to 4 and went down to 2. And I think there's multiple factors, and
Yeah.
that's probably a moment that can also break a startup. I mean, we've settled before we went on the trip, figured out what we wanted, what we, agreed on, where do we want to go, and, what's the exit point? How do we feel about that? Do we want that? Kind of aligning. And it's very uncomfortable to run a startup. When you raise money, you spend more. If the revenue doesn't come straight away, it's pressure. So you have to kind of balance that. And then all of a sudden you have a company coming up and giving you like a very juicy offer that you go like, I mean, if we keep going, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And, the co-founders that want out at that point in time will be hard to keep on board when in hard times.
Yep.
So that you can feel is also, it's like, okay, so we're not selling. That means we have to keep going through hell for a longer period of time without knowing whether actually the opportunity arises again. So you need to have that level of confidence where you will keep going even if you actually don't take up such an offer. And that was tough and kind of split a little bit the team.
Yes.
Among other external factors, family, like it has an impact on everything, right?
And everything.
And then everyone had to decide for himself what they wanted.
It's actually, I mean, there's as many stories about companies that turned down an acquisition as companies who took the right acquisition, right? I mean, you just don't know which the right one, right? And the key is to make sure you have the opportunities and options, right? So one of the other things that hits a startup, and I'm just going to throw this out to whoever wants to chime in, is, costs money to do things. Like you said, even if you take money or if you're bootstrapped, whatever it is, it costs money. And you had that unexpected cost that said, wait, that wasn't in our plans. That was way more. Wait, AWS charged us what? Oh, wait, did I say that? Yeah. So who had one of those moments?
Yeah, actually, we had such a moment. At one point, we needed to convert the company from a company to a corporation.
Yes.
It's a legal thing in Switzerland. I never told this story to anyone. And we had a trustee who supported us at that time. And he did the whole paperwork and didn't mention that this would also have quite a big impact on our private tax situation.
Right.
So at one point we got a huge bill from the tax office, and we were like, okay, what's happening here? Because the money was like in the company. We didn't have the money at the time. So, but we managed it somehow to fix that.
But that was probably quite an evening.
Yeah, I would say an unexpected cost is probably legal fees, lawyers.
Yep.
But it's necessary. I think when you're serious about something, you want to do it properly.
Yep.
And I think lawyers are definitely a source of support and can be a really great, they're a necessary part of the team. And so you want to make sure you're investing in the right places. And I would say for us being bootstrapped, there are a lot of things we don't invest in.
Yep.
But having a good legal team that can help guide us, help, that understand the startup world and understand how startups are thinking is really important. So having that alignment, not just internally and being aligned with your co-founders and having the same values, but also finding those extensions of your team that are going to deliver the same value. And it is expensive, but I would say it's an expense that will ultimately always pay off.
So I'm curious, how many of the rest of you have a close relationship with a lawyer that you interact with regularly? Do you find that, are they part of the team, or you call them only when needed? How do you use legal services?
It's a extraordinary woman. She's so smart. Like she's not an ad tech person, but she understands everything we say, and we explain to her like how the tech is working, who is the advertisers, publisher, the middleman, blah blah blah, and she manages to create like all the terms and conditions and specific terms that are needed, and she knows. So she's external. She's part-time. She only works on demand. But she understands that we need to do business.
Yes.
So she is here to help us sign and not the opposite.
Yes.
So she would warn us like, here, there is a big risk. You shouldn't accept that and that. But apart from this, we are going to make this work. Mm-hmm. And so we try to find the way so we can do that deal.
So I always told my lawyer, your job is to tell me what my risks are, not what I can and can't do. right? I'll decide if I'm going to take the risks, right? But it's as startups, I tend to find lawyers tend to look at you and go, look, you're a startup. I'm going to have to tell you what to do. Like, get a different lawyer, right? You need the partner in that one. So how many of you have a close advisor to the company that is not an actual employee or founder of the company? Yeah, a few. So how do you use the advisor?
We have several advisors.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to surround yourself with people that have different experiences than you, and also people that know a lot of people. So I think warm introductions are what get you in the door a lot of times in the beginning. You know, if you don't have, I have one of my co-founders, this is his third venture. So we have some credibility there, but especially when you're not perhaps all in New York or all in a big city, you need to have somebody that can walk you in and back you up. So I use them a lot in terms of making connections. But most recently, a great example is just like last week, it's saying, how do we maybe narrow our scope a little bit, right? How do we get really specific about what we do and who we do it for? We have a variety of clients, but I think we should dial in further. Right now, you know this from the investment side, a lot of AI companies just get kind of lumped into one big bucket. And so I think there's such a great opportunity and white space for us to further differentiate ourselves and stand out. So, you know, taking that feedback from an advisor and his suggestions and the way that he's viewing it and setting us up for an acquisition later, you know, along the way.
Right. So you said you had multiple advisors. Do they each have a different role, or do they all do the same thing?
No, very different roles. I think I wouldn't say that there's like a concrete grid and where they fit in terms of a bucket, but they certainly all bring some type of different background and different experience. So somebody maybe more from like an agency lens, perhaps, versus like a data or an identity lens of what's happening in the space. So I think that having that variety, it gives you, again, diversity around your table and like that input and influence on your company, I think sets you up for greater success. Not that you have to listen to everything they say. You still have to make a decision about who you are and what you want to be when you grow up. But I think just having more of that information and that choice gives you, you know, the wisdom to make a more calculated risk.
And a good advisor knows that they're just giving you advice. They're not giving you direction.
Exactly.
Right. And that is a big balancing act. But, you know, we know where it can when I know people that are walking by us out here and looking up, I'm like, wait, that was my head of sales before. Anyway. So Priti, how about you with advisors beyond legal, right? Yeah. Other areas do you get guidance from?
Yeah. I mean, we have a broad spectrum of advisors, some who I talk to weekly, some that I talk to, you know, quarterly. Generally, they have different sets of expertise, like you're saying. And, you know, I would say the one that I found I connect with very much is my one that focuses on communication.
Okay.
And I think being a small company, again, you choose where you're investing. And I think I do all the marketing for the company. And so being able to have someone to gut check with about the message we're putting out, about how we're positioning ourselves, and, you know, what are the long-term impacts of what we're saying today is really important. But I think it's really important to have that perspective coming from someone else, because they really understand you, but then they also understand what you're navigating outside.
They also tend to have just a hair less emotion than you.
Yes.
The generic you, right? That's kind of matters at times. So Fabrice, CEO is one of the loneliest jobs in the world and very stressful. How do you find sanity when you're all alone? How do you stay focused?
I am a workaholic, so I can work a lot, and I decided to put like big rocks in my agenda, especially at evening. So progressively, I really put some stuff to do in agenda I didn't do before. For example, I started bass guitar, so I put a class every Monday, and I have to go to the class. It helps to change my mind and also to learn something, because we are learners. Founders, we are learners, and learning something very different also teach you a lot about how is working your mind. For example, and I put also some fitness class every Wednesday, every Friday, some boxing on the Friday. So I try also to learn from my body and to.
Do you take pictures of people you work with?
No,
as advisors?
no. I choose the people I'm boxing. One day it's my banker.
Yeah.
One day it's my
There we go. Yeah,
whatever.
perfect, yes.
And every Friday I change people.
Yeah,
But I box them. So I put like big rocks.
Yep.
I cannot manage because I am engaged.
Yep. Rui, how about yourself?
For me, it's going to be a lot of sport as well, and music.
Yeah.
Like guitar playing, piano, or singing. Something I enjoy. So it's going to be more of the music thing when I want to get closer to my emotions, and more of the sports when I need to get my dopamine level up and my cortisol level down. But then I'll also have routines where, you know, I'm going to have like breath work. I'll use a lot of things. It's essentially trying to stay connected to how I feel and actually dedicate time for that, so that I can focus on what I have to do the rest of the week. I have Claude reviewing my week, as in, you know, what I'm doing, whether some things didn't work as I would like to, like, you know, in terms of ownership, in terms of deliverable quality, like everything. And then I try to add an emotional part to it on a weekly basis, where I kind of catch up with myself. Hey, how did I feel? And I think it's mostly about consciousness, so you understand when you need a break, right? And by now I also have a team where, you know, every now and then I'll just go like, hey guys, I'm out 2 days, take over, and then the person that's actually filming here has to kind of make sure that everything keeps going and take over.
So I actually think it's one of the best things when a founder can step out for a couple of days. Too many founders build the organization where they can't step out. Not a resilient organization.
100%,
right? So, all right. So we've only got a short time. So we're going to go into a last question, but I want each of you to take a turn at answering it. So why don't we start down here? What is your honest advice to a founder? What would you, if someone's saying, I'm going to start a company, you run into them on the street, had a few drinks, and I'm going to start a company, you're going to say what to them?
Okay. On the first drink, I'm going to say, start a project in a field where you have skills and you feel legitimate. Because the first company I created was in a field that I wanted to learn about.
Yeah.
Because it was a passion. I was passionate about wine and I wanted to learn and so on. It's a bad idea.
Okay.
Because you convert your passion into work.
Right.
And you are not legitimate. And I wasn't an expert in this area.
And it's not your escape anymore. Right? Wine's not your escape anymore. Yeah.
Now it is back like as a passion, and I like it. And yeah, that would be my advice. Like, get some experience, and then once you are skilled in this area, you're legitimate, you feel self-confident enough, and you can build a project on these skills.
Yep. All right, let's go down the line.
Yeah, I would say, because I am a 15-year entrepreneur, so lot of change. But I would say, stick to your vision, stick to your mission, but don't fall in love with the form. It can change a lot. Don't fall in love with your product, because the product can change a lot.
Yeah.
Don't fall in love sometimes with your people, because you don't know exactly what will happen. Will you have some change? And so stick to the vision, stick to the mission, and the form will change and have to change. And you have to deal with that as a founder.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need to take decisions, hard decisions for your product, hard decisions for your people, if you stick to that.
Great. Alban?
Magali just mentioned it before. I think first point, find the co-founder that complement you. So that's really important. If you share the same skills, it's not in the benefit of the company, maybe. Second, try to prioritize your tasks in terms of that they benefit the company, because a lot of founders tend to just like prioritize those things that they love to do. And maybe third one, just keep on going. Don't stop. I saw just in my Airbnb here at Cannes, there was a picture on the wall, which was saying flowers need time to bloom. And I would say it's exactly the same for almost every startup.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would probably join on the co-founder thing. It's very, very important that you have someone not only that complements you, but that you can communicate with, that understands you, and that you can understand. And probably the second point would be open for change.
Yep.
Everything changes all the time. in you, in like everywhere around
Yeah.
you. So don't take anything for granted. Don't think that something, is a fact.
Yeah.
It might be today, it might not be tomorrow, and that's how it is. So, just be flexible, adapt, because you need to adapt to everything.
Yep.
On every part of your life, and I think that's very important.
Yeah, I would say the most important thing is know yourself. There's a big period of growth and reflection that are needed in order to actually be committed to something, right? So if you don't know yourself and you frivolously decide to join someone doing something and you don't know what your conviction is or why you're doing it, you're ultimately going to fail yourself.
Yep.
And you're going to fail the other person. So number one, know yourself. And number two, understand your values, because you need to ultimately find a co-founder that shares those values. And if you don't share values, again, it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
And so I think having those shared values is really important so that you can find the right partner to build the right thing. And it is a marriage, right? Like
absolutely.
it is 100% a marriage, and you want to be in that marriage with the right person. So
Yes. Kind of like most marriages.
I think it's a really hard marriage.
Yes,
because It's like 100% based on finances. There's not all the other aspects to it. I think first I would say that's awesome. That's so exciting. And then I would ask them the question, what does your support system look like? So who have you put around you, whether that's your partner at home or your family, but also people who can maybe mentor you or guide you, somebody who's maybe perhaps not in your industry that you can call, that has grown businesses and can help you navigate those things. And then the second thing, I'm going to steal a line from a friend, is I would say, because it takes a lot of grit, get ready to be a caterpillar. You got to be a caterpillar before you can be a butterfly. So you are going to be in the dirt. You're going to be in the grime. You're going to be, going through it. And that's what has to happen before you can actually blossom and bloom.
Excellent. Well, we're at time. So thank you all for the honest advice. And if you see them, ask them more questions.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.